Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be a Leader podcast, where we talk about current events in sports, military, and business through the lens of leadership. And today we're going to talk about Carlos Alcaraz, who just won the Australian Open here this past Sunday, which means he became the youngest person ever to win a Grand Slam, which means he won the four big majors. It's going to be the Australian Open, the French Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open. He's done them all four in his entire career, and he's 22 years and several days, but he beat the record that's been there for, I think, for 85 years. So it is a big deal. And of course, we can look at what his strategy and his talent, his athleticism, but of course, we're going to be looking at his leadership. How did he do it? Okay, how did he do this? We're going to look at three key things. And it is also very interesting because if you go back about half a year ago at Wimbledon, he was in the final against Jannik Sinner. And in this game, when people talk about Sinner, they're saying he looks like he's generated artificial intelligence. He's like too perfect. He's tall, he's lanky, can reach everything. He's an Italian player. He's very good. And in this match, there was this point where Carlos Alcaraz started getting frustrated. And now they allow them to players to talk to their coaches briefly in the matches. And could audibly say, Mucho Mejor. Sinner is Mucho Mejor in the baseline. He's a way better. This guy's way better than me in the baseline. And it was kind of like this freak out moment of like, what do I do? And it was in this moment where there was a thought that there would be a clear rivalry between the two, that Sinner and Alcaraz would be butting heads often, these tournaments. But then after that, he lost. He lost to Sinner in the Wimbledon final. And there was thoughts, well, like, maybe he's peaked. Maybe Sinner is going to be untouchable. But here we are, a few months later, he wins the US Open, and now he wins the Australian Open against Novak Djokovic, a clear legend in the sport. And now we have to see things differently. So again, how did he do it? We're going to look at three key ways on how this became possible. The first one is the brilliance in the fundamentals. You can't have freedom if you don't have fundamentals. Carlos Alcaraz has a lot of talent, has a lot of athleticism. He's very good. But the reason why he can do the things he can do is because he has this baseline of fundamental strength. How did he get that? He had a very good coach in Ferrero. Don Carlos Ferrero has been his coach. That briefly ended a few weeks ago. But for a large segment of his life, his teenage years and his early 20s, he had this coach Ferrero who was very disciplined, very focused on the fundamentals and the basics and consistency and all the things that someone at that age level needs. The joke in college basketball is, how can you expect consistency from the most inconsistent age group, right? Carlos Alcaraz is in that age group. By having Ferrero there, through years developing the brilliance in the basics, being able to hit different shots, different type of shots, the topspin, the slice, the drop shot, forward shots, close shots, rallies, the serve, bringing all that together, different textures of the floor as well. Like being very good at all those little things because they all add up so that the other elements of his game can shine. Because there's no good just having one-hit wonders. You can only do a forehand, powerful forehand, right? Then you're exposed everywhere else. Having very clear, being brilliant at the basics, that is a key component of why Carlos Alcaraz was able to do what he did. Because everything shines when he has those fundamentals. I see this in basketball all the time. College basketball, I coach high school basketball. I'm very keen on the fundamentals. Oftentimes, the biggest mistakes are self-imposed. I travel. I don't dribble the right way. I travel. I can't make layups. Or I'm always running out of bounds, missing free throws. Like, there's things that we want to... I'd love to implement more strategy. But I can't do that until you can consistently demonstrate these fundamental skills. Go with my time in the Marine Corps. Everything's brilliant in the basics. And there's a lot, too, in the military. It's all over the place. From being a very good Marine, being a good rifleman, being good with your special occupation specialty, being good with your unit tactics and strategy. There is a lot of fundamentals, but they have to grow. And you can't move on to the next one until you finish it. That's why when officers are commissioned after officer candidate school, they go to the school's called the basic school. You're at the basic school, TBS, for 6 months because you got to learn the basics on everything. Like week 1, you're in the rifle range and pistol range. Like week 2, you're doing mixed martial arts. And it starts to build and build. And at the end, you're doing whole maneuver strategies over lots of terrain in the woods in Quantico, Virginia. It all builds up. But you have to have those basics before you go on to specialty. I dropped in aircraft, involved with aircraft. So the amount of specialty required with the radios, I had to be really good with the radios. I had to be good with the 9 lines, the communication, both rotary and fixed wing. I still had to be good with artillery. So I had to be good with naval gunfire. So I had to be good with infantry, maneuver forces, tanks. It adds, but you can't be good at any of it if you don't know the basics. It was very good at the basics. Very good at the basics. So one of the things that's interesting is good coaching does not make you dependable. It makes you capable. And as we know, Carlos Alcaraz split with his longtime coach a few weeks ago. I mean, at this point, it's been a month. And he went to the Australian Open without his old coach and won the whole thing. Well, it's not like he forgot everything. Those habits became ingrained. Again, good coaching does not make you dependable. It makes you very capable. And there's freedom. There's freedom when you have the fundamentals. Those are the essentials. You have freedom. Freedom doesn't come before the fundamentals. Fundamentals, then you have the freedom of movement. And that's what Carlos Alcaraz was able to do. That's how he made it to get those Grand Slams here at this young age. The second reason, when things don't go your way, it's so easy to make excuses. It's so easy to get down on yourself. In that game, when Carlos Alcaraz lost to Jannik Sinner in Wimbledon finals, it was a tough moment. The whole world saw it. He was literally complaining to his coach that this guy's way better than me. This is the key. What do you do? It could have been so easy for him to say, it was a bad day. I was off. My power wasn't there. I was sliding too much on the grass, sometimes with excuses. Or he could have gone the other way. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought. Maybe I can't really, maybe that guy really is better than me and will always be better than me. Could have gone either direction. But instead, this coach, Ferrero, says, let's watch the film. Let's study the film. Let's watch how you've beat him before. Let's watch that one. Remember the Paris Open, the French Open, when you were down 2 sets and you came back and won the next 3 and beat him? Let's watch that. Let's watch also Wimbledon. Let's see how he's adapted. Let's find where he's strong at and points of weaknesses that we can exploit. Let's figure that out. And then once we get all that data, let's make our game plan for the next few weeks leading up to the U.S. Open on how to beat Sinner. And that's what they did. They watched the film. They made a whole strategy based on how to train to beat Sinner. They go to the U.S. Open. He's able to beat Sinner in 4 sets. And it was a brilliant match from the perspective of Carlos Alcaraz. Brilliant match. In college basketball, we have this phrase that says, film don't lie. Film don't lie. We can see so much through film. I remember at the end of basketball games when I worked for John Beilein, University of Michigan, as the head manager, oftentimes it doesn't matter if we won the game or lost the game. Coach Beilein would always say at the end of the locker room, I got to take a look at the film, and then we can go deeper. And here's a little trivia thing for you. Most coaches delegate their film cutting to assistant coaches, a video coordinator, to a manager. John Beilein liked to cut all of his film. He wanted the disc because we still used DVDs then. He liked to get his film as soon as he can, put it on his laptop. He would cut usually 200, 250 clips and then dwindle it down to 40 to show the team. But he liked to see his film because we can learn so much from film. Why doesn't everyone look at film? I think part of it is ego. It's hard. Why would I want to look at me losing, me playing poorly? No, we should not be worried about protecting our ego. We should be worried about protecting our progress. And studying film, studying our mistakes is part of that. In the Marine Corps, we have after action reviews. So this would usually come in exercises. And after the exercise, we have sit down with all leadership, and we try to take emotions aside, be very objective, say, what are the things that went very well? What are the things that didn't go well? In hindsight, how could we have prevented or been better in those things that were shortfalls? And then it's documented. It's put on paper. It's saved. It's put a part of the company or the battalion archives. It's put on there because these cycles happen. Usually the same exercise happens every calendar year. So in the wintertime, there's always this time. In the bleak of summer, something else. If it's going to be utilizing aircraft, or it's utilizing amphibious assault vehicles, like they're pretty consistent. And so you can take the past, read it, refresh yourself, remind yourself, and that's how you learn. If you don't learn, you're going to do it worse. You're not going to grow. You're not going to grow. And so it's very important to be able to learn. And that's a big component of why Carlos Alcaraz was to be able to get the Grand Slam and win all four. Okay. Fear does not mean that you are weak. It means that you found some area that you need to grow to get past to. In this case, it was being Jannik Sinner, and that is what helped Carlos Alcaraz win this Grand Slam. So let's go to the third reason. Carlos Alcaraz, when he plays with a lot of joy. I have my leadership principles that I work with clients. I have my winning principles that I work with my basketball players. And a big component of that is playing with joy. Because when you play with joy, it is the fuel you need to keep going. When I think about joy, it's about still having some kind of awe and wonder and curious and trying things out and enjoying the process. You have to play. When people look at Carlos Alcaraz, they say he plays like he's alive. He expresses everything in his play, but he's also willing to try things. And he captivates audiences, whether on the TV or live. Live fans love him. If you watch the matches, they're always rooting for him because he does these spectacular plays and he's like in the moment with the fans. He plays like he's alive. And it's a reminder for all of us. We're all alive, but we don't all feel alive. And we all kind of want to feel alive, but we don't know how to. A key component is finding joy in the process, finding joy in what you do. Steph Curry's a great example of this. I remember back before he was before the NBA championships and he was a big name. Part of the allure with him was he was small, he was thin, but he played around. He'd make funny shots, stuff around the rim, these pull-ups, these deep three-pointers that didn't even make any sense. Logo shots came from him. He changed the NBA because he was playful. He brought so much joy to the game. People saw him and said, man, if he can do that, then I should try stuff too. There's a lot of joy to the game. If you don't have joy, you end up burning out. That's the key danger. And we've seen so many young prodigies, especially in tennis, because it's a solo individual sport, where they're big phenoms when they're teenagers and they burn out. It becomes work. I saw it in college basketball when I worked at all the time. See these players that were great because they were younger, they grew up tall and they were good, but at some point it became a job and they lost the joy of being able to play. You got to find the joy. It's the fuel that you need to keep going. Even in basketball, find the game within the game. I do that all the time with my basketball team. I'm the head coach right now, and I play games. Sometimes it's a half court, right? So it's not the full court, half court, and then I'll play games. Sometimes I'll make that half court and cut it into a quarter. You can only play on this side, on the right side. We'll play a little bit, and then you can only play on this side. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, no passes. No dribbling. You cannot dribble, only passes. So then they have to play a new game. And what happens is part of your brain starts to be creative. How can I score and beat my opponent by only passing? We're going to do a lot of cutting, a lot of off-ball screens, but I can't dribble, so I got to get in position first. Sometimes I'll do it to where you got to drive in the paint first and kick it out 3 times, right? Sometimes I got to do these guys score off the post, or you always got to start with the ball screen. There's many games within the game. And as you start to move on these different parts of your brain, the creativity, you start to open up a different way of playing. And then it shows up because then I take these these small mini games out and we play real games. They start bringing in some of those new styles or the new way of playing into the game, and it makes you much better. Find the game within the game. I gave you an example of basketball. It could be something else in your career. It could be if you're accounting, find a game within the game. It could be managing people. Find a game within the game, right? It could be with your kids. Find a game. We've all done that. Those are parents. Hey, who's going to get into bed quickest? Who's going to be the quietest? It's a game within the game. We have the ability as leaders to create games within the games. Find areas of joy within the game. Many times people think that joy is on the other side of success, but it's not. Success is on the other side of joy. Enjoy the moment. Otherwise, if you just grind it out and you have success, you might not even know what it feels like anymore. You might get there and be like, that feeling that I expected to feel, I don't feel. Maybe I need a new thing to succeed in. And then you're chasing, you're never celebrating in the moment. Success comes on the other side of joy. Focus on the joy. It's something that we can work on. Find joy in the process. Carlos Alcaraz is good at that. And I believe as long as he stays safe from major injury, will continue on. But the fundamentals, studying the film, getting better, and finding elements of joy. So that leads us, and I just pretty much told you what the main takeaways are, but here we'll go over them again on my college basketball whiteboard. Fundamentals. The first reason why Carlos Alcaraz was be able to win a Grand Slam, the youngest person ever, was fundamentals before freedom. He had a great coach who gave him discipline, consistency, and being good at the fundamentals. Because once he had that baseline, then he can open up the playbook. Then he can experiment during the games and try things and allow himself, while the momentum swings are real. Fundamentals before freedom. Okay, you can't have freedom if you don't know how to play the game. You cannot have freedom if you don't know how to play the game. So be great at the fundamentals, and then the freedom comes as you play. Second, study beats ego. I said it. As high performers, sometimes we want to protect the ego, but we should not protect the ego. We should protect progress. Study, learn from your mistakes, document them, look at them, get another observer, get a coach, learn to get better, keep growing. Okay, study beats ego every time. And the third one, we just finished this one up. Joy is the fuel. Joy is the fuel. Find joy in the process. Be curious. Try things out. Be playful. But those are the things you need to keep doing. Otherwise, you're going to stop. Novak Djokovic is in his later 30s, and he's got 24 big major wins. He almost needs that 25th. He almost got it Sunday if it wasn't for Carlos Alcaraz. And people ask him, like, why haven't you retired? Federer's retired, Nadal's retired. And his answer was simple. I still like to hit the ball. He finds joy in the little things. And that keeps him going. Find the joy in the little things. Anyways, I've said that. So there's some questions. Obviously, I got some questions for you as we wrap this up. Where are you skipping fundamentals for freedom? It's too easy to focus on the freedom. I just want to just let me do my thing. But if you don't have the fundamentals, you're going to travel, you're going to turn the ball over, you're going to make mistakes. You got to have those fundamentals. Okay, that's the question. That's the first question. Second question, where are you avoiding studying to protect your ego? We all make mistakes. We are on our path to mastery, but we're not going to get better if we're not able to put our ego aside and say, how can I learn? How can I study to be better? So that's the second question for you. And the third one, where have you postponed joy until after success? No, don't wait. Don't push joy aside. Find the joy in the process, and that'll lead you to success, because that is the fuel you're going to need for these very difficult things that you want to do in your life. And if you're having trouble with all of these, you're telling me, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to find joy. I don't even know the fundamentals that are important to me. I don't even know what's important to me. I don't feel confident. I don't feel like I can lead myself. I have a program for you. It's called Confident Leader Bootcamp. Guaranteed to help you feel confident and be a leader. Step into that, and it'll change your life. Carlos Alcaraz has been able to do that. Big component was that great support system, great coaches coaching him along the way. And I can do the same thing for you. So as we wrap up this session of Be a Leader podcast, take what you learned here from Carlos Alcaraz's success. Well, it'd be interesting to see how he continues. But let's all learn from him. Let's all find inspiration from him. He's a young man. There's a lot that we can learn from him. Whether you lead yourself, lead others, or lead leaders. Be a leader. My name is Daniel Pinedo. Thank you, and until next time.